Scott, welcome to the On Purpose podcast, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, I'm blessed to have you. I've wanted you on here for a while, and I don't think I ever told you what brought you to my man, I want to share this guy's story. I don't know if I ever told you that.
No, I'm completely interested now, though.
Dude, it was when I first met you in Quartzsite. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Quartzsite's just a big place in Arizona that swells up with RVers and full-time travelers and nomads, whatever you want to call them, every winter. And Scott and I didn't know each other, but we had a mutual friend that kind of introduced us, and we ended up in the same campfire circle. And the thing I noticed about you, Scott, that I want to commend you on is you are a fantastic listener.
Mm,
And I
that's that's a good compliment, man.
no,
That
dude,
that's a
it
good one.
it struck me as like abnormally good because you came to a campfire where not everybody knew each other. And I think a lot of times we come into those circles and those groups in our life, whether it's a campfire, a work setting, or whatever, and we want to talk to establish who we are. And I was just blown away how you established who you were by listening. And I was like, man, I want to know more about this. I want to know more about you and share your story because it was just special. I mean, in a good way, it was special because what you did is you allowed other people's stories to have value and you allowed people around you to feel heard. And I think that's just an energy I get from you anytime I'm around. I was like, man, I got to have this guy on the show and share his story.
If you actually care about how people feel and their perception of your interaction and all that, listening's imperative. I mean, besides that, if you're only waiting for your chance to speak, you can do that alone. You can do that in a mirror because you're not having a conversation. You're just listening to yourself speak.
Mm.
So it's really important to hear people and not only to hear the words that they're saying, but to look at their body mannerisms, to look at their facial expressions, to pick up on all the energy and information they're not giving you vocally. And that'll tell you a lot about where their mindset is, and it'll lead to much more interesting conversations than whether or what kind of rig you have, or a lot of the standard conversations you get in. I don't really care about. Shouldn't say I don't care about it. I just want to go deeper.
Yeah,
I want to know who Jared is. I want to
right.
know what makes Jared tick. I want to know all the knowledge you've accumulated in your lifetime and what can I learn from that.
For
So
sure.
I try to do my best to listen and retain as much as possible. Now, couple knocks to the head and I don't remember everything as well anymore, but I at least give it an honest effort and retain whatever I can.
I don't think the remembering is as critical. At least every time you show up, it seems like the first time again if you don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you get to have great conversations all over again.
Yes, I just want to give you that compliment, Scott, that
Thank you,
just being
man.
around you, people feel heard. Not just me, but when I watch, even coming off that festival, I watch people interact with you. And you're a special person. And it's an honor to be able to share your story with our community and kind of learn more about kind of what you were saying. I want to learn more about behind what's behind Scott and where did some of this stuff come from. But before we get into any of that big stuff, we got to warm you up, dude. We got to get our minds firing right. Are you ready for your warm up?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Scott, your rig breaks down, but on a deserted island, you're not going anywhere. You get one food the rest of your life. What are you going to be eating?
It is going to be a ribeye steak.
Man, that ribeye is super popular on this show.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that you're probably like, God, I gotta say, third or fourth person in the last 2 or 3 months that wants a ribeye.
I mean, I could eat a ribeye about every day of the week for a while before it gets old.
All
Between
right, well,
ribeyes and eggs, man, they're pretty universal for me.
I forgot you're on that carnivore diet. You're doing the all
Yeah,
protein.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so then my ribeye follow up, since I've had a few of these, is how do you cook your ribeye? I always like to know that too. How you cooking this thing?
So typically I'll do black and blue. So I just salt and pepper and garlic onion seasoning, let it sit in the fridge 24 hours so it dries out, and then as hot as you can possibly get a grill or a pan, and you give it about a minute and a half on each side, a minute on each side. It's nice and crisp on the outside, almost still alive on the inside. It's exactly how I like it.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Superpower. What would your superpower be and what do you want to do with it?
So I literally just had this conversation maybe 3 weeks ago. And if I just say the superpower, it would probably be conceived as something really diabolical. I would love to have mind control, but not for the reasons most people would think. I would love to be able to shift somebody's mind to see how absolutely fantastic they are. I would love to be able to take people's traumas away. I'd love to be able to show people the brighter side of life and humanity and all these things. And mind control would be a great way to do that. If you could just snap your fingers and change their whole mental outlook on life, I think that would be an absolutely beautiful superpower to have.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a
Plus,
good
I would
one.
never get a speeding ticket ever again. That would be a plus.
That'd be a dude, I've seen your bus. I don't imagine you getting many speeding tickets in that thing.
It depends on the state.
Or
You're
if
gonna
you're
have a
going
hard
downhill.
you're gonna have a hard time getting a speeding ticket in Wyoming, but Utah's a little easier.
That's funny. Favorite book?
Ooh, gosh, that there's two that come to mind. I read Thoreau's Walden every single year. Um, it's just something I do. It reminds me to live simply, to appreciate what I have, to realize I don't need more than I currently have. I have plenty for happiness. And then the other one that I read pretty frequently, at least every year and a half or so, is I've read Sapiens. Uh, I don't know, 4 or 5 times now, and Sapiens is an absolutely fantastic book.
What is that about?
So it's kind of the cover at least says a brief synopsis of humankind, and I wouldn't call it a brief book, but it walks through all of humanity and a lot of why we genetically developed to be the way we are, how social constructs work, how society works. It's an incredibly interesting book. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I have to put that on my list. Very
Yeah, I
nice.
think it's Yuval Harari that that's the author. I'm terrible with authors.
Hmm. No, that's fine. I'll look it up. All right, you get
Yep.
dinner with one person. Who would that
Ooh.
person be? They can be dead. They could have passed on or still be alive. Who would you have dinner with, and what would you want to ask them?
Oh man, that's a good one. Lao Tzu maybe. Um, Lao Tzu is the writer of the Tao Te Ching, and I would love to pick his brain on all sorts of stuff that Tao does not cover. Um, and the Tao was kind of written towards leaders to lead their people,
Hmm.
but the premise behind a lot of it goes deep within yourself. And I'd like to ask him a lot more of the personal questions of mindset and how to view tragedy and how to take tragedy and turn it into positives. And I think that would be an incredibly good conversation. But I could, that's a great question because I can make a whole dinner party out of who I would like to sit down and pick the brain of.
Yeah, no, that's good. What, where did this curiosity, Scott, come from? You're a very curious person, which I enjoy because that
Mm.
we're learning. But you seem to really want to focus on the mental side and the deeper understanding and learning. So where did that come from in your life?
Uh, that's a question I'd love to be able to answer. Um, I I can give you what I think it came from.
Sure.
Uh, I I like many people was completely broken mentally,
Hmm.
right? And and went through a lot of my life just avoiding um, trauma, circumstances, memories, and subconsciously so. So I would just force myself into work, and I'd work harder and work more. And if I wasn't working, I was doing something else to distract myself. And then one day I got tired of my own actions, behaviors, temperament, mentality, and like everything I do in this life, I went all in. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fix this. And then I just started reading every psychology book I could, and then philosophy books, and it goes on and on and on. And the deeper I get into it, the more I realize none of us know,
Mm.
and we're all taking our best shot at it. So I'm exploring my mind, I'm exploring other people's minds, I'm exploring the hive mind of humanity and how I fit into that puzzle piece. And puzzle's the right word, because I'm trying to put all the pieces together just to make my consciousness make sense to me. And I don't know if I'll ever obtain that, but it's a fun chase regardless. I mean, it's fun now, but
So this wasn't always a way of life for you.
no, no, not at all. I spent, I mean, I think like a lot of people, I kind of squandered my youth, and I say it that way, but I had fun and wild adventures, and did crazy stuff like young men do. But I squandered the time of, I could probably be further along in my self development and self growth if I started earlier. Um, Not that I'm upset with where I'm at now; I'm completely content. But I wouldn't have had to make some of the mistakes that I made in life if I would have started fixing behaviors that I had earlier.
Mm. That's interesting though, right? Because without those experiences, you wouldn't have the perspective you have. So it's a catch 22,
Welcome to the paradox.
right? Because you
Yeah.
you got to have the experiences of the letdown or the wonder what ifs sometimes to fuel the curiosity to change who you are now. Was there a moment that just rung out to you, or that you go back to and go, okay, I remember where I was, what I was doing, and I was like, okay, I've got to make changes in my life because this is not who I want to be?
uh, there was one that kind of directly led me to the life that I'm in now, and there was a whole lot of exterior circumstances, but I'm working tremendous amount of hours in a very high stress, high demanding job. I have a sick loved one at home that I'm also caring for, and like the world was on my shoulders, and I'd been carrying it for years that way. And then one day I had a panic attack. Never had one before this moment. Think I'm having a heart attack. All right, we're back.
All right, think I'm having a heart attack.
So I thought I was having a heart attack. I end up in the hospital. And the second you mention anything about your heart in a hospital, about 27 people come out of the woodworks. Next thing you know, you're on your back on a gurney, getting strolled to the back, and everyone's putting monitors on you. And there's all these people around checking everything. And as they started fading away one by one, until there's only a couple people in the room, and all of a sudden the stress levels came down in the room. Before anyone told me, I realized it was a panic attack. And I'd never had one at this point. And right there in my head, I'm like, all right, you got to change your life. There's something going on causing these things. And before a doctor ever talked to me, I knew I had to change a punch. And then, of course, a doctor comes in and starts talking about stress and everything else and how you got to change your whole life. And I did that day. On the drive home, I decided it doesn't matter what it takes, changing my life.
What was the first change that you had to make?
First change is always going to be mental for me. So I I started reframing why I was doing the things I was doing. Um, why am I working so hard at a career I really didn't enjoy? I was good at, but I didn't enjoy it. Why am I pressing so hard to be society's version of successful? And why all these things? And that was kind of the catalyst. And I went home. I didn't take vacation. I didn't do stuff like that. I went home. I picked a date. I sent an email, requested vacation. I went on a vacation up to Avenue of the Giants in the Redwoods. And I think you've been there, right?
No, not yet. It's on our list.
Go, man. it was the perfect time and place in my life to make a pivotal shift, because I'm standing at the base of 2,000-year-old trees, bigger than you can imagine, in realizing how small I am in this life, right?
Mm,
So this physically large guy with a quasi important job that runs a lot of people. You know, you're used to being kind of the big dog on campus, and not that I ever wanted to be that. It's just how it worked out. And I'm
sure.
standing at the base of this, I don't know how many hundreds of feet tall tree that's 2,000 year old, and realizing how small I am and how insignificant the things that I'm doing in life are. And then what would be significant in life? What could I do from that point? And
Mm.
that whole trip was just thinking and processing, and I got home from that and I'm like, I need more of that in my life. I don't care what I have to do. I need more of that in my life. And I immediately started reverse engineering the life I wanted to have. And I'm not independently wealthy. I'm not a trust fund kid. I didn't win the lottery. So doing that kind of travel nonstop was going to take some ingenuity. And I just started reverse engineering exactly what I wanted my life to look like.
So the reverse engineering was you wanted to just be able to travel more and be free, kind of what you've created now.
Yep. I
So you,
wanted to be exactly. I ended up in the exact life I wanted. I wanted to be able to travel, see new things, and completely go through my mind and actually process thoughts and have unique thoughts and not just react to programming of life.
I like that reverse engineering, right? Starting with what is the goal in mind, what is the outcome I want, and then going backwards to the very first step I have to take. So when you got back with the outcome in mind, what was the first thing you had to do? What was well, I guess let me rephrase that. What was the biggest or first fear you had to overcome to even know it was possible for you to do it?
Well, so like I said at the time, I had a sick wife, and I was really apprehensive about walking away from a well-paying career that had great health insurance. And you know, it's kind of the golden handcuffs thing,
Mm,
where you're like, man, I make a good amount of money in an area that good paying jobs aren't in, and how am I going to pay for healthcare? How am I going to sustain us? You know, I have a mortgage and a car payment and all these other things. So the financial side and the security side to walk away from was the scariest, hardest thing.
yeah.
Um, but once you do that, once you just knock the scariest thing out of the way, you're like, oh, the rest of it's easy. And everyone gets scared about, like, so I don't think we've mentioned it. I live full time on the road. I travel nonstop. I'm in my fifth year of doing that now. It's exactly the life I want to do. And a lot of people that want to get into that life, they're scared about selling their stuff.
Mm.
And I'm like, that was the easy part. You know, like I don't use half that stuff anyways. I've just been toting stuff around from one house to the next, from one state to the next. And there was things I hadn't put my hands on in a decade. So selling all that was easy, but walking away for a career you worked so hard to obtain, and the financial security that comes with that, and the idea of, once again, societal success, to walk away from that was definitely challenging.
How did you handle people that didn't believe in what you were doing or those around you that doubted you?
This is going to sound terrible, but disregarded them altogether.
Nice.
Uh,
Explain that.
so my life is uniquely my own, and
Mm,
other people are welcome in it, but they don't have a bearing on it. So I explain it as, I have a giant dinner party, right? A dinner table. All are welcome at my table, but it's really easy to be dismissed. And I don't mean cutting people out of my life altogether, but I don't have to take your opinions and your thoughts on my life in account. I will take your counsel. I will try to see things from your point of view. I will digest that. And if it does not align with my life and my purpose and my wants and my needs, I dismiss it altogether. And I say, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for trying to bestow your wisdom. No, thank you. And I move on and I chase my own life.
I love the talk, but I think what you said there is so profound, Scott. Like, let's sit on this for a second. You listen,
Mm-hmm.
then you tell them no, thank you, which to me is giving them grace, right? Because everybody has opinions on what everybody else should do. And I think a lot of times where we struggle is if you give me an opinion, we're having a conversation, you tell me your thoughts on something I'm about to do, and it doesn't align with what I want to do. A lot of times I'm not mature enough to give you that grace that allows us to still have a relationship moving forward, even though I didn't take your opinion on this matter.
Yeah. So that's back to that hearing people and caring about their feeling of your interaction as well. I don't want people to feel like I've dismissed them and not heard them. I heard you. It just doesn't align with my purpose. And there's a lot of wisdom out there.
Mm,
There's a whole slew of things that you could teach me that I don't know. It may or may not pertain to my life. So it's my job. I feel it's my job to hear you out,
yeah.
to digest what you said, actually think about it. And then if it pertains to my life, I can apply it. If it doesn't pertain to my life, I can say, I appreciate the information, but I don't think that's going to work for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we froze again.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Perfect. So there's anything wrong with that is where it cut off.
Okay. I, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think um, there's a rift that comes in your life when you're trying to follow your own dreams. And it's typically a rift with the people closest to you that feel invested in you. I think there becomes a rift in life when you're chasing your own dreams and it doesn't align with what their dreams are or what their ideas and dreams for you were. And that can cause conflict.
Mm,
But I don't think conflict should stop your purpose either. I don't think conflict should stop your dreams either. And frankly, conflict is kind of where we grow, right? Hard times or
yeah.
conflict or bad scenarios or tragedy, we grow immensely in those. I think it's really important to pay homage to the fact that it's causing static with people you love, but do it anyways. I mean,
Hmm.
go ahead.
What? No, no. I love that. Why do you think we get so invested in having opinions on how other people should live their lives?
Oh man, that goes deep, right?
Like, why do I?
Expectations for other people that they never agreed to.
Ooh, tell me more on that.
So, and it's the same in any relationship. I don't care if it's platonic, romantic, if it's family, if it's business. People have expectations of you without ever having a conversation with you. So, thus, you've never been
Mm.
able to accept the terms of those expectations.
Ooh,
I don't accept them personally. So I have no obligation to live up to the expectations that you have made for me in your head without discussing them to me. And when you frame it like that in a conversation, and maybe you do it a little more tactfully than I
yeah.
just said,
I
because that
love
could
it.
come off aggressive.
No.
But I had this very conversation in different verbiage with my dad, and I love my dad dearly. But he sat me down on the couch and boy, I think you're screwing up. You're leaving a good career and all this to go live in a bus and drive around. And that was our first conversation on it. And you know, 6 months later, everything I have is sold. I've built a bus. I'm going to do it. He goes, well, I'm excited for you, but I still think you're screwing up doing this. You fast forward a year and he sees how happy I am. And he says how proud of me he is
Mm.
that I went off and did this. And then 5 years later, he goes, you made the best decision for you. So he had, and he never stated this way. This is my observation, right? and I think this is with all parents, you have expectations for your children, and you have expectations of them because you've built up how you want their life to be in your mind the whole time they've been growing up. And then as they become teenagers, and then they become adults, and then, they're well into adulthood. And you continue to want things for them, but you never had the conversation with them. They never agreed to it.
Mm.
And you don't know what their wants for their life are. So you're looking at it through the guise of your own history and your own consciousness for somebody else's life choices.
Mm.
And this could be a different story too. I could have been making a big mistake. I could have
But it was your
decided I wanted to.
life.
Yeah,
It's
that's
your
the thing.
life.
It's everyone's unique human experience on this earth. So who is anybody else to dictate how you live it?
Mm.
I mean, we get into theology later, but unless the Hindus are right, we get one chance at this life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless reincarnation's right.
Right.
But we don't know if that's the case or not. So you get one shot at this life. To live it for anybody else besides yourself is 100% squandering your opportunity. It's
Mm.
squandering the magic we call life.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is parenting or leading other people's, a lot of times the opinions you have are based out of your own fears, right? It's not that I don't want Scott to be successful. It's not that I don't want Scott to feel free and alive. But man, what if it fails? What if he needs money? What if he needs a better health insurance? He doesn't have, oh, well, if he doesn't do that, then he's safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And sometimes I call that transferable fear. It's when I transfer my fears to you and it starts to limit what you're willing to accept, right? It happens all the time in parenting, it happens in business. When I live my life with limiting fears and beliefs, it's easy to transfer them to those that live with me or that are around me.
That's projecting, right?
And it's not
So,
negative. It's not like I'm trying to hold you intentionally back. I'm just trying to
no,
avoid some pain for you.
yeah. And I think you can cause damage to other people's walk without being malicious, with literally having a pure heart, but going about it in the wrong mannerisms. And that's that projecting of fear, of projecting insecurities of yours onto other people in their life. And
Yeah.
furthermore, with that, I mean, all the scenarios that you stated, will he have health insurance? Will he struggle with this? Is he throwing away career? Jocko Willink said it best. Like whenever you get into a terrible situation, good,
Yeah. That's a
good.
great video.
I'm glad. Like that,
Yeah.
if anyone hasn't seen that video, they ought to, because
Yeah.
it shifted some mindsets with me, and I leaned into that really, really hard. So now when something sucks, I say, good. I'm like, I guess I get to learn out of this. Oh, the tire blew. Good. I guess I get to figure out where the closest tire shop is.
Yeah.
And you just keep pressing forward. And I don't think mistakes or setbacks matter as much as everyone else believes that they do. It's just part of the walk.
Yeah.
It's part of
And they're
this life.
not permanent. Very few
No,
of them are permanent. You're not going to remember them. Right? It's like watch an open mic night. When people get the courage to go up there and face their fears and get on open mic, and their biggest fear is, well, if I'm a failure, people will know. Well, honestly, if you fail and you're the second act, by the fifth act, no one even remembers who the second act was.
that's the truth.
Right? Like you can't even remember their name or what they did.
Yep.
But we have this idea that in my life, if I fail for some reason, everybody's going to remember it forever. So I got to avoid failing.
Well, I would propose a different part of that too. I think you're 100% correct. But say you do fail in life. Say
Yeah.
everybody remembers you failing in life. What's that even matter? What's it matter what somebody else has in their head? Your job is to go through life with what's in your
Mm,
head.
yeah.
So I don't want anyone to think badly of me, right? It's not a want of mine, but I don't care if people think badly of me. That's not my struggle and strife that I have to deal with inside their head. That's their struggle and strife of not liking somebody.
Mm,
I choose to go through my life liking everybody, even if they've done me wrong, even if even if they can't have a spot at my table. because of their actions and reactions to life, I still don't choose to hate them, belittle them, think negative of them, because that's all stuff that has to float around in my mind
Mm,
and it doesn't affect them at all.
right.
So I'm only hurting myself hating other people or looking down upon other people.
Mm,
So once again, if I fail and everybody remembers it and they look negatively on me, what do I care? I don't have to think negatively of me, and I don't.
well, and you've learned from the failure. You've already moved on. You're progressing.
Yeah, yeah. So the best, uh, the best lessons in my life, picking up from where we paused, uh, the the greatest learning opportunities and the most growth that I've had in my life have come from failures, mishaps, mistakes,
Hmm.
tragedies, all of those things. So I don't look at them the same way anymore. I don't
Yeah.
look at a failure as I failed. Let's get down on myself. Let's um let's feel bad for myself and let's wallow in it. I look at a failure and I'm like, okay, cool. I get to learn from this now. What do I get to learn from this? Maybe
Yeah.
I get to learn humility. Maybe I get to learn resilience. Maybe I get to learn dedication to being better at whatever I failed at. Or maybe I learned that I need to pivot and stay away from whatever I continually fail at. But that's
Yeah,
where growth is.
for sure. That's good. And man, I really love what you're doing. I want to tell you, you're also a fantastic writer, Scott. I really enjoy your writing.
Thanks, man.
Um, you wrote a post 2 weeks ago on Instagram that I came across. And I just wanted to give you a little quote from it that I really enjoyed and wanted to kind of know what was going on behind it. And this is the quote. I live amongst the pines in a life I designed specifically for me, a bespoke life, a life tailored fit for the unique soul that I am. What were you thinking when you wrote that, and where did that come from?
Um, it, a lot of this conversation has kind of touched base on it. I think a lot of people care too much about either society's view of them, their family's view of them, their friends' view of them, their coworkers' view of them, and they squander their life by not living the life they want to. And that's the magic that is the human experience. Like this thing that we call life is absolute magic,
Yes.
and we squander it every day by living somebody else's dream for us or trying to reach for other people's expectations instead of our own. I chose not to live that way. I live an unorthodox life that works fantastically for me, that may not work for anybody else. Um, I receive criticism about it occasionally, not from anybody that I love and hold dear anymore, but you get it from society, right?
Yeah.
And uh, and I don't care. I'm gonna go live in the pines. I'm gonna go live the way I want to live, and I'm gonna make sure that I live 1,000 lifetimes in this one lifetime.
Mm,
I'm gonna use all of my days to try to actually live a life and not just let it push me around in the current of the universe.
mm.
And I know that sounds kind of cryptic, but I think we all become subjects of this life if we don't take control of our own life and steer it a little
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're the stewards of our own life. If we're not going to guide it, who is?
bit. Society, your family, your job, all the
Right.
things that should have very little or no bearing on it, that's what will guide your life.
Yeah. So what's been the biggest discovery you've made about yourself? So now 5 years in, you've been living out of the bus, traveling. You obviously run a business from the road. You do a great job. What's been the biggest self-discovery that just freeing up that time for these 5 years has allowed you to find out about you?
Time. You already said it. Time is the most valuable thing that we cannot hold, but we currently possess, right?
Mm,
And and it goes back to squandering of that time. Time is a absolute blessing. To have the time to be bored is an absolute blessing. And that's where creativity shines. That's where you figure out who you are. That's where you figure out what you want to be, what your desires are. How many people float through life and they don't even know what their desire is? Like
Mm,
what does your soul yearn for? And you have no idea because you've never taken the time to sit and ponder it and ask yourself, what do I want? So I think being in touch with how finite time is and how valuable life is the biggest takeaway I've had in my entire life. There's a great quote, and I forget who said it, but it was each man lives two lives, and the second one begins when he realizes he only lives one.
mm,
And oh, man, if you haven't faced your mortality and the fact that you're going to die someday, and that we're all going
yeah,
to die someday,
yeah,
and in a couple generations, probably nobody will know who you ever were.
yeah,
If you haven't come to terms with that and then realize like this is my shot to live the experience I want to live, um, I surely hope you find that moment soon because life is really good on the other side of it. Really good.
yeah. Was there a specific moment after you made this change where you're just sitting there and you're like, ah, this is exactly what I dreamt it would become?
Hmm. I don't think so. I think like a lot of things in life, it was one small step after another, after another, after another, and then eventually you look back and you're like, man, this doesn't suck.
Yeah,
This isn't terrible. And to be fair, this life turned out to be nothing like I thought it was.
really.
I mean, the expectations and the ideas I had built up in my head were completely out of touch with what my experiences have been. So I thought this whole life was just going to be about travel and seeing cool things and uh, a lot of alone and solace time, which it is all that. But that's not the beauty of this life. The beauty of this life is all the experiences that you get to have, the experiences you get to say yes to, the experiences you would have never said yes to, but all of a sudden you're presented with them and you're going to say yes anyways. It's about the community. Like the only reason we're talking right now is we met around
Yeah,
a fire in a part of the Arizona desert I would have never been in if I didn't live
for sure.
in a bus traveling.
Right.
So that's part of the beauty of this life for sure that I had no idea, no concept that that's how it was going to be.
Yeah. No, that is amazing. And I love, and that's what I did a couple episodes on now and talk about is when people in motion meet, there's a reason you're meeting. And I would say your responsibility is to figure out what is this reason? What am I supposed to teach? What am I supposed to learn? What do I give? What do I take? Right? Because my life's in motion, your life's in motion, and we meet at a specific place. Well, that can't be by accident,
I, mm,
right? There can't be an accident. Like the fact is, if you just stopped and got gas, one exit early and showed up a day late, or you'd have taken any of the other campsites, we don't meet,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I,
Or we
I,
decide not to go. Like there's so many things that have to go right for two unique human beings to cross paths. And to me, that's one of the things I love is like, okay, our paths have crossed. Now we have time, like you said
mhm.
earlier, because we've taken control of time with our lifestyle choices. Now we have time to explore what is the circumstance we're meeting? Why is this happening?
I've never framed it in my mind that way. Um, I've thought about the whole, is it universal destiny that people meet and they cross? Is it happenstance? I've played with all of those ideas in my brain and I don't have an answer to any of them. But what I can tell you is every time I cross paths with somebody, I'm looking for what I can learn from them.
Yeah,
I'm looking for what our conversation brings, what kind of energy they have, and what can I learn from that. Uh, and and I think it's paralleling what you're talking about, but I've never put my thumb on the whole universal destiny kind of thing. I don't know if we were destined to meet, but I do know I'm going to take up the opportunity now that we have.
sure. Yeah,
So
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that, it's something that really fuels my curiosity, is just the randomness of meeting people.
Mhm.
What is the purpose? Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? What am I supposed to learn here? What am I supposed to give?
Yeah. I uh, I think the real mind-boggling thing comes in if you start thinking about there is no purpose, right? Your purpose is going to be whatever it is for you. My purpose is going to be whatever it is for me. Is there a universal purpose? I have no idea. Neither one of us will know until we're looking back on it anyway. But you can take the opportunity to go whatever your direction of your life is, right? So
Mm,
I love talking to people. I love picking their brain. I love having conversations like this. I'm going to take my opportunities to do that. And somebody else they may not like talking to people at all. So they're going to take the opportunity of us meeting and walk away from it and go rock hound in the desert or what have you.
yeah.
But I think that's the whole beauty of having your own consciousness, right? We're
Mm,
all on different paths. We're all going to cross. We're all this big amalgamation of thoughts and ideas and life and time and place and geographic location. So, what is your purpose? You the guy looking for rocks, or you the guys picking brains? I don't think there's a wrong choice as long as you're following what you want to do.
mm. Yeah, and what's the ripple effect it creates?
Mm.
Right? Like that's another one that just fascinates me, is the ripple effect of relationships. Right? Like,
I think
so
that's why it's so important to hear people and love on them and have conversations because of that ripple effect.
yeah, you never know when it's going to end.
Mm.
Right? Like, so simply, Virginia and Andrea were Instagram friends. So we just happened to show up. We're not even in court site. We're down at Kofa Wildlife Refuge. We come to court site to do laundry. Virginia just happens to be at the same laundromat, recognizes Andrea from Instagram. They've never met in person. So they strike out, hey, we're Instagram friends, blah, blah, right? So now I'm teasing Andrea that she's Instagram famous or whatever because she's getting recognized. So then Virginia's like, well, come up to courtside. We got a circle. So then we come up there. You show up. We get to meet. What, 8 months later, our son Trey's building out a bus, has a shit ton of solar questions. Who does he call? He calls you. You guide Trey through it. Now Trey's off living his life with your products, right? With your knowledge and his knowledge. Now he's out in the middle of a beet harvest, and I guarantee somebody's gonna have a solar question. He's gonna share some information he got from you that
Yeah,
he only got because we met at a campfire, and we only met at a campfire because Andrea ran into Virginia at a laundromat.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you look at that, you're like, why wouldn't I give more to the people that I just happen to meet, because I don't know where that ripple ends.
It's a perfect case point on why you should treat every single person you meet like they are the human that they are, right?
Mm.
Not your opinions of them or whatever. You have no idea what effect your life or the circumstances of life are going to bring. Man, love everybody. Talk to everybody like they're at least your cousin, if not your brother, you know? And just
Yeah.
have conversations and treat people well. I think you perfectly stated why we should collectively as a society be living our life different.
What does it hurt? What does it
Yeah.
hurt to love somebody?
I haven't found anything yet. And let's even take romantic relationships into that, right? Love and heartache and things like that, they hurt. But if you're looking at things as an opportunity to grow, even those make you a better person.
Mm.
Even heartache makes you a better person. Even loving or marrying the wrong person can make you a better person on the other side of it. So, what does it hurt?
Right.
You have no idea when you're sitting on your deathbed, hopefully at a ripe old age, and you're looking back on your life, you have no idea which circumstances were going to be the pivotal turning point to the biggest joys in your life. So you have to be open to every single one of them being that pivotal point.
Yeah.
At least I believe so.
Yeah. No, 100%. And they're not usually the big moments that you always thought they were. They're going to be the little moments that make up your days. the
100%.
the having a morning cup of coffee with Scott. You know what I mean? Like it's stuff like that. Dude, I wanna wrap this up with another thing you wrote that I just absolutely loved. And it was part of that same post. And you said, so I no longer accept society's ideas of success. As a matter of fact, I see it as foolish, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy living in the pines with dirty feet, a clean soul, and a permanent smile. Dude, I
Facts,
love that.
man. Facts.
I love it. I love it. And Scott, I wanna thank you again for coming on the show with me. And even more so, I want to thank you for being who you are and letting people that you come across know that they're heard, whether it's for a minute, an hour, a campfire, a continued relationship and conversations like we've had. You're a blessing to the world, my friend, and don't ever doubt that your light shining is making others, turning others' lights on as well. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much, man. Those are incredibly kind words. I appreciate that. I really do.
Where can our audience follow you to get more of your living in the pines with dirty feet logic?
Well, so on Instagram, I have two pages. I have my business page, which is Nomad Solar Official. And that also has a link on it to my personal page, which is Nomad Mox. So all my travel stuff and uh, my writings, like what you quoted, those are all going to be on that Nomad Mox thing. And then I'm Scott Wyrick on Instagram and Nomad Solar on, or Scott Wyrick on Facebook and Nomad Solar on Facebook. And you can catch me in any of those.
Awesome. And then I would just like to propose a little business idea for you, and that's maybe a little travel guide of knowledgeable tidbits from Scott's life on the road. Because I like if you put that kind of stuff in like a little pocket guide that you can just read every day, get a little motivational idea. I think that's awesome.
Even better, everyone's welcome at my table. So come join me at a fire pit and we'll have a real conversation.
Awesome. Scott, thanks so much for joining us today.
Jared, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.